Here. Welcome back. So I think people will join eventually. Here we have few people, and thank you for joining. Hello Rebecca. Not audible? All right, we're gonna fix the audio. Am I audible now? Okay. Online, am I audible? Can somebody verify? Everybody's camera is off. Can somebody? Vimlaji, thank you, Vimlaji. Okay, all right. So, like I mentioned in the previous class, I think many of you probably were not in the previous class, so that's fine. Most of you must be aware, we set a good motivation, and before we begin anything, why a good motivation? So I think I'd like to just explain for few seconds, few minutes, and then we'll set a good motivation. So, let's take an example of, let's say a young kid wants to do, very, very fond of physics and maths, wants to do a PhD, and somebody in the middle school, right? And with that clarity of thought that he or she, this young kid, says, I want to do PhD, right? So the amount of effort, the amount of interest this kid will take in specifically the subjects he or she is interested, and let's compare somebody, hey, it's okay, I'll just do my high school, do some, just a degree course, my family has a business, I'll join the business, let's say, these two scenarios, right? So somebody with, somebody wanting to do PhD, and that too like from a top school or a top college, right? With that kind of enthusiasm, this person will learn more. The quality of the result from the education will be much higher. Does everybody agree? Right? If you compare the two scenarios, right? So it's very similar, not exactly same. In such teachings, many times examples are given. Examples may not fit exactly, but we have to take the essence of the example. So that's why, the simple example I'm giving, that we set a good motivation. Bigger your goal, and, the obstacles also you face. With the motivation, you get the energy, right? So somebody with like a very big goal and a sense of commitment towards that goal, no matter what the obstacles, the chances are higher that the person will, keep going on the path, right? So in the last session, we spoke about that we have to be practical. What we are doing is for our own happiness. We all sentient beings, including ourselves, we don't want any level of suffering. We don't want any level of suffering, and we want maximum happiness if possible, right? And then we have to see how we can achieve it. So what we'll do, keeping this in mind, we'll set a good motivation. So what, we can probably just quieten our minds, allow your awareness to come to the present moment. Almost majority of our problems, that at a mental level, they are related to either the past or the future. So if you can just take few deep breaths, couple of deep breaths to come to the present moment. And with this level of awareness, with your best attempt to be in the present moment, we set a good motivation. And one of the best motivation is to think about your own potential. We all have this potential, and when this potential within us, which is called the Buddha nature, there's nothing ism about it. There's nothing. Buddha is the word, is a Sanskrit word, means fully awakened. When we are fully awakened, we have got rid of all the potential issues within us, which will allow us to experience, no misery whatsoever, and 24/7 bliss. And then, most important, this state is only achieved when we aspire to become a Buddha for sake of all sentient beings. So at this stage, we may not have conviction, but at least we should know this, that if we aspire that may I become a Buddha for sake of all sentient beings. And this is the wisest approach for your own self. And I'll just recite one verse from Arya Nagarjuna's fundamental way of the middle way. The homage verse from that. Enthused by great compassion, you taught the immaculate Dharma to dispel all perverted views. To you, Buddha Gautama, I pay homage. So with that, let's start today's session. Since many of you are joining, today, and you were not present in the last session, I'll do a quick recap what we covered last Saturday. So like I mentioned, what basically, if we ask ourselves very simple questions, perhaps you may have inquired, naturally you are a person who goes inside, and perhaps you are not that kind of a person. Every individual is different. So we ask ourselves that, what do we want in life, right? And if you ask this question to 100 different people, probably you will get 100 different answers. That, okay, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be an actor, I want to be an artist, I want to just take care of my family. You will get very different answers what they're looking in life, right? But then if you drill down and then go a little deeper and ask them why. Okay, why do you want to be an actor? Why do you want to be an astronaut? Or why do you want to be a sports person? Whatever their aspiration is. And if we keep drilling down, they may give another answer. They may give another. Eventually, it'll come down that it'll make me happy. Or the other side of it, which is not synonymous, is that I don't want any suffering, right? So somebody in the family having severe illness one after another, maybe their aspiration is that may me and my family and loved ones be free from illness. When you experience, these kind of, very difficult times, then the aspiration may be that I want to be free from suffering. And it's perfectly fine, Both these aspirations is very fundamental in everybody. Okay, one, I don't want any level of suffering or misery, and I want happiness. If happiness is the word you associate with just physical level of pleasures, then some people say I want mental ease, right? And then I think last time there was one volunteer, Sagar, he mentioned a good word, that I don't want mess in my head, right? So mess in my head kind of makes my mind disturbed. So you can use any labels. You have to understand that what is that your mind, your thinking echoes with, right? The idea is that, we're using a language. In language, we have option of many, many words. It can be happiness, it can be ease, I don't want mess, but eventually it boils down to that. So these are two fundamental aspirations, right? And the topic chosen is, genuine happiness, and then genuine happiness in today's world, and 4 seals of Buddha's teachings. So we're exploring happiness in a way. And then we're also saying, is the happiness that we are seeking or we've experienced, is it genuine? Right? That's what we explored last time. And then if we say it's genuine, what are the qualities that this happiness should have? Right? That should it have certain qualities to qualify that universally people will say yes, that this is the happiness I'm looking for. Like one of the things that was mentioned, it should be lasting, right? And then I asked a question to the previous crowd, and there's something, I'll throw the same question. You don't have to answer, but think about it. That as of today, you have a past, you have your own memories, you have your own experiences. Is there any happiness that you can pick up from your past, this life, that you can say, yes, this was genuine happiness, right? That you can relate it to yourself. Can you point to something, online, offline? I would ask this question that, yes, I feel, yes, this was genuine happiness. Then was it fleeting? Was it lasting? And then is it something that you can invoke on demand? If you felt that it was close to genuine happiness, then can you say, okay, today evening, I'm going to have this genuine happiness for 2 hours, complete control over it. right? So this is something that you have to explore yourself. Why? Because if you don't explore, then it becomes like a monologue. Oh, genuine happiness is this. No, it's about you. It's about me. It's about all of you online. It has to be something that echoes with you that, yes, this is what I think is genuine happiness. Then the next question arises that, okay, I think I understand a little bit about what genuine happiness I want. Then do I have the potential? Can I achieve it? Right? We have to explore that also. And the answer is yes. There are varied answers they were given, like, okay, there was somebody called Buddha Shakyamuni who came on this planet Earth. If he experiences, I can experience it. This was one answer that came out last week, right? But then I think that's not a convincing answer. Convincing answer should be that, yes, I have the potential, not somebody else had the potential. Somebody can then cross-question and say that, okay, Buddha was a special being. I'm not so special. He was born prince, and then he had such, wonderful teachers, and etc., etc. You can find all differences, and your mind will not connect with it, right? So we have the potential to explore how Buddha taught. And often Buddha in his teachings has mentioned and compared, that when you go and sell, let's say, gold, how a goldsmith would check the gold, by rubbing, cutting, and burning. Same way Buddha compared in a very famous verse that, you should check my words like a goldsmith by rubbing, cutting, and burning. And only if you're satisfied with the purity of gold, then you should go ahead. So similarly, don't follow me with blind faith. Use your own rationality, use your own reasons, use your own experiences, and then you can probably, come to a conviction. If your conviction, if somebody else says it and you have conviction, it's very shaky. All the time it's very shaky. Right? Somebody can question it and you're cornered. And you say, yeah, it doesn't make sense. What you're saying makes sense. You will switch sides. Right? Why? We have to go back to basics that I have the two aspirations. Okay? So we explored that. And then if we have the potential, then how do we manifest that potential? Then we looked at there are no miracles. We ourselves have to train, learn things, and then there is something called 3 levels of wisdom that we quickly looked at. Like right now you're hearing, maybe you will access YouTube, you'll access some books. This is wisdom of learning. You learn things. And then if it makes sense to you, you reflect on it, and then yes, this is the way it is. This is wisdom of reflection. And the third, which is wisdom of meditation, which is often missing. In fact, not often, it's non-existent in modern education. What is wisdom of meditation? Meditation is familiarization. Why are we familiarizing? Familiarizing that I want to be happy, and then I have to understand the causes of happiness. So if I familiarize with all the causes of happiness and I change my thinking, I change how I speak, I change how I conduct myself, this is meditation. Meditation is not just like, okay, single-pointed meditation or just calm my mind. It's a very, very small part of meditation. So that's what we also looked at in the last class, that there are 3 levels of wisdom, and this is extremely important. I can talk about very nice things that, okay, anger is very bad. If you get angry, then, it destroys the peace of mind. There should be love and care between all human beings. And then I go out, I drive my car, and then every second car I'm shouting at. Road rage, right? So that doesn't make sense. Theoretically saying things and not imbibing in my own thinking. Even if I'm an angry person, I should acknowledge that, yes, I have this shortcoming and I want to change. This is the first step. I'm not justifying anger. I'm not justifying negativities. I have a bad habit. It will take time, right? So this is where the wisdom of meditation, that I'm trying to familiarize with things which make sense to me and for my long-term happiness, and even for short-term, medium-term happiness, and then imbibe in my life, right? This is one thing. I also mentioned that how I got into Buddhism. There's a very nice book, if for beginners, I strongly recommend, The Art of Happiness by His Holiness. And somewhere in one of the chapters, His Holiness mentions that one of the qualities of happy people is that the difference between their public and private life, the difference is hardly any. And His Holiness doesn't mean that I start taking shower in public. That is not the meaning, right? Public, private, then you say that everything I do in public. There are conventions we follow, but in terms of thinking, in terms of our behavior, His Holiness is pointing this out, right? So you'll often see people who have, we are not judging anybody. We are here for ourselves. But if you see around, see yourself, that if you have this big divide in what you think and how you conduct, chances are very high that you'll be an unhappy person, or whoever that person is. Chances are extremely high, right? You may face very tough external conditions, that's a different thing. But, somebody who is, like, if you go a little detail in Buddhist psychology, some of you are from Nalanda Courses, there is a mention of, qualities of the mind. So there's one quality of mind which is called faith. In English, the connotation is completely missed in the translation. Faith we associate with blind faith and things like that. The Sanskrit word is Shraddha. Shraddha means with dedication, with sincerity that you do things. And that often in the text it's mentioned, it's the root of virtues. And virtues is what brings happiness to us. So often, like, it's not a problem with English, right? You have to pick a word when you translate things. So this word Shraddha, if in day-to-day, if people who speak Hindi or a little bit Sanskrit, there's a connotation of sincerity, right? That, I have anger issues, but I'm sincerely trying to change myself. There's a sincere effort. And when that happens, slowly that divide between your public-private behavior, public-private thinking, all that will start narrowing, okay? And that makes a big difference. So that is extremely important, because in today's modern world, and specifically there are many, many courses available on mindfulness. It's extremely helpful, no doubt, but there are many teachers, many courses who do not understand the deeper connotation of meditation. So be aware. Be mindful of these mindful courses also, right? You have to study a little more that what does it mean by mindful? What am I trying to, one of the things that have always awestruck me about the story of Prince Siddhartha, Buddha, is that his level of clarity. In the story we also explored that, there are two stories. One is a historical story and one, the actual story. In the historical story, it's like he was born as a prince, and then his father, the king, protected him a lot. And then eventually he came across, instances of aging, sickness, death. And then he questioned it very deeply. That will I age? Will I become sick? Will I die? Will it happen to my loved ones? Will it happen to everybody? He questioned it. And then he was taught these meditation practices by first two teachers that he met, and then he was very clear that you've taught me, I've learned this, but this does not solve my problem of aging, sickness, and death. So one thing that awestrucks me every time I hear this story is that the mental clarity, Prince Siddhartha displayed. It's truly amazing, right? So if you're very clear that, okay, this is my goal, and then have this critical analysis that, okay, somebody is telling me, does it solve that goal, right? And with great amount of politeness, he did not, become rude with the teachers. Very politely he asked that, you've taught me, I'm very grateful, but this does not solve the problem. And the teachers were also extremely polite and humble. You're right, this is what I can teach, but if you're looking beyond this, I don't have answers to your questions. Okay, so we also explored life of Buddha very, very briefly. Okay. Then we also said that this potential that we have, why is that, we've not experienced this so far? If we have this wonderful potential to be 24/7 happy and experience no miseries whatsoever, then why is that we don't experience it? There are external factors and internal factors. And the internal factors are what we call, there are a lot of technical things, but we simply said we are disconnected with reality. This is one factor. And we all have this extra level of self-centeredness. I want to be happy is perfectly fine. I am the only person who deserves to be happy. I am more important than others. This is the problem, right? I want to be happy. Nothing wrong. I want to be happy and I'm the only person who deserves it, right? So if there's there was a COVID wave and then you go to the nearest center and there are 200 people to get vaccinated and there are only 10 people, everybody says, give it to me first, right? Nobody says that, okay, this person deserves it more, right? I have this problem, I have this problem. And we analyze, we're not judging others, we analyze ourselves, that how do we behave, right? So those are the causes, and then not because I'm saying, we eventually have to get conviction in it, that why this extra self-centered attitude creates problem for me, right? I should take care of myself. This is what my modern society, my upbringing has taught, that take care of yourself. And why is that, this extra self-centered attitude will create problems for me? And why is that, taking care of others or compassion actually is beneficial for me? Right? Those are questions which seem on the surface contradictory, but they're actually not contradictory. You have to use proper reasons, and if your thinking is based on correct reasons and those reasons are based on reality, your thinking will be very stable. If that stability is there, eventually you go closer towards your aspirations. So this is what we looked at. And then of course, like I asked earlier, that we have to explore what this happiness is. This is extremely important. In modern society, we confuse means with the end, right? I want money. So if you ask somebody why, no, I want to be rich, right? So eventually the goal is to be happy. So for some people, money is a means to that goal. Money is not the end, right? I want to be famous, right? And then any other thing. So most of us, including myself, before getting into teachings, I would confuse means with the end, and that becomes a problem in itself, right? When you achieve those means and then you start feeling hollow. Okay, I've achieved money, what's the big deal then, right? It is bound to happen. It is bound to happen, right? Eventually. And of course, money is important, health is important, those things are important. Here we are not denying, often an untrained mind, when we say, okay, money is a means to the end, not the end, many people will think money is not important. I did not say that, right? I just said that the amount of importance given to the money, that's incorrect. Money is important, but the amount of importance we give, to these materialistic things, that is incorrect. And fine, if you want to pursue a materialistic goal, then eventually at one stage you would realize that it's not genuine happiness. The qualities of happiness we're talking, lasting, the ability of you, we all have this ability to distinguish between physical pleasures and mental, level happiness. There are people, not today, historically, in future, you will find all types of people who have all luxuries in life, yet they were very, very unhappy, right? Yesterday somebody sent a photo of, on WhatsApp to me, Bill Gates and Jeff Bezos. That they are the richest guys, yet they went through divorces, both of them, right? Which is a fact. If they had so much of money, and is divorce like a happy thing? Okay, I'm going to get married so that I can get divorced like few years later. Is this the aspiration? I am yet to meet anybody with that kind of aspiration. So you don't want it, yet it happens, right? If money was everything, fame was everything, then why celebrities commit suicide? Why do celebrities commit suicide? There's so many celebrities, if you just Google, they commit suicides, right? So there has to be something, and of course, money gives you that comfort, all that, agreed. But then there are people who do not have money, yet they can maintain a mental balance, which, for others, it may sound like, okay, it's quite difficult, right? If I was in a similar situation, maybe I may not be able to maintain that kind of calmness or happiness that this person displays, despite all these problems, right? So the mental level can override the physical cannot override the mental. Yet this does not mean the physical comforts are not important. I mean, I can almost guarantee that none of us would be sitting here if we switch off the aircon, switch off the fan, right? I can almost guarantee that maybe not for 1.5 hours, maybe for 15-20 minutes, and we'll start feeling uncomfortable, right? This is also reality. We all need physical comforts. We are used to it. Conditioning is there, right? So that's what we looked at, and then we listed the 4 seals. And what are the 4 seals? All composite things are impermanent. All contaminated things are of suffering nature. Everything is of nature of emptiness and selflessness, and transcending sorrow is peace. Why they are called seals? Because, One, during those times, it was like, there were kingdoms, kings. So whenever they pass a decree or a law, they like put a seal on it that this is a law now, right? Something like that, the etymology seal. And then if you understand these four seals, then across time, across, different locations, these realities still hold true. So it's like a seal that they hold true, right? It's not that, okay, Buddha gave those teachings 2600 years ago, it only applies then. In today's world, these don't apply. So these are very big statements Buddha made about reality. He did not invent these realities. He discovered it and said, hey, this is what the reality is. If you're disconnected from this, you will face a situation where your mind will experience tremendous amount of pain. Okay, so that's what we covered. And then in today's session, we'll try and cover both the seals, first two seals. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing, all composite things are impermanent. Now, and then we'll also look at, first let's explore intellectually, and then we'll explore that how does this help me in my personal life, because that's extremely important, right? Here, if you're here to gain intellectual knowledge, I think Nicola or Yashla, you're not going to give any certificate or any degree, right? So everybody is here. If it was just for pure intellectual knowledge, then there are universities, there are institutes, you can go get at least a certificate, right? Then you're in the wrong place if you're here just to get intellectual knowledge. Of course, just intellectual knowledge is also good, nothing wrong, but then you're not getting the benefit out of it. It should be something you can take and say, okay, if I try it, at least I can make changes and I can face life better, right? World will continue the way it is. Life will continue the way it is. No, whether you learn or not learn, whether you change or not, it will continue. But of course, if you learn and apply, then it's guaranteed, not from because I'm saying. The guarantee will come from within you, that it's guaranteed that I'll face the situation better, right? Once you learn these things and start applying, right? Not from me, not because anybody is saying, but you yourself will get the conviction that yes, intellectually it makes sense. And if I start applying, then intellectually I can say that if I apply, I will face the situation better. Okay, the first one. So here, all composite things are impermanent. There's a technical word, composite. We'll explore that later. So anything, very loosely speaking, anything, that are physical senses. We have 5 physical senses. For each sense, we have an object. Like I'm speaking right now, so my speech is an object for your hearing, right? People here and online are looking at me. So my body is your object of your eye consciousness, right? So these are all composite things. They're made of parts, So I'm saying loosely, I'm not giving a definition, very loosely. So these things, all composite things, no matter what, if it's a composite thing, it necessarily is impermanent. And impermanent, here we should not, because we use impermanent in our day-to-day language, we may have our own understanding of it, own concept about it. So let's keep that aside for the time being. Okay? Impermanent here, very technically what Buddha is saying is that anything that undergoes momentary change. Okay, and then let's look at some examples. So, if we look at our own body, I think everybody here, there's nobody online here in person who would not have had a haircut. We all had a haircut, right? Simple thing like a haircut, right? So if we have a haircut, let's say maybe every 5 weeks, 6 weeks, let's say, I don't know, everybody's frequency would be different, but every 5-6 weeks. So right now, is our hair growing, or is it like for 6 weeks there's no growth, and then end of 6th week, right? So let's say it's 40 days, 6 weeks, right? About 40 days, let's say, right? So 39 days, there's no growth, and suddenly on the 40th day, it grows like whatever you want to get a haircut. Is it like this, or is it moment by moment the hair is growing? Moment by moment the hair is growing, right? Moment by moment hair is growing, right? So it's a momentary change. You don't see it with your eyes. Even with your body consciousness, you don't feel, oh, my hair is growing. You don't, right? Is anybody like, your hair is growing in your body? You don't experience it like that. But it's a reality. Why we don't experience this? Because our senses, they pick up gross information. This is little more subtle than the gross information that we perceive, right? And it may sound like, when I said haircut, there were some people smiling and laughing. And so these things, when I give a neutral example, it's quite easy to associate, right? And then we associate with, things like, I'll give an example. There was one particular lady, she called me almost about 6 years ago. Since I go to these Buddhist centers, some people know that, okay, he knows about Tibetan Buddhism, so he may know about Tibetan medicine. So somehow, I don't know her. She, there were some common friends, so she just called me that I got your number. And one of my teachers, everybody knows, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdullah. So she went, somebody said that you're not well, you go and see this teacher, So Geshla gave my number that you stay in Gurgaon, and Deepesh also stays in Gurgaon. And perhaps if Western medicine is not helping you, you just consult him how to get Tibetan medicine. So she just called and I inquired what's going on. So she said about 15, 16, this she called 5-6 years ago, a lady in her mid-30s, late 30s probably. And she called and she said about 15 years ago, she had a particular autoimmune disorder which was affecting her eyes. Okay. And then she got all the tests done, and a couple of months, the doctor said, watch it. The tests were repeated, scans were done. And then it automatically, whatever her disease was, subsided. No issues whatsoever. No issues whatsoever. And then she said, one day I woke up and I'm almost something like, I forgot the percentage, but something like she got the test done. She's 80% blind, 80-90% blind, just overnight. Just overnight. Okay, so hair growing, we feel very, very like, okay, neutral example. But when such examples or such instances hit us, it's quite tough, very tough, right? And then last week only, my extended family side, my sister-in-law's sister-in-law, she's a 28-year-old girl, they went to Kashmir just for, sightseeing. They had some holidays, both husband and wife. And she came back and she just had a bad stomach, really bad stomach, And then bad stomach went quite bad. She had to be hospitalized, and then multiple organ failure in just couple of days, right? The kidneys failed, heart failed, and she was in critical care. And the hospital did not have a facility for artificial lungs. There's a machine called ECMO machine, which pulls your blood, pumps the oxygen and puts it back because lungs are not working. So she was even transferred to another hospital. And so basically now the doctors are saying her lungs are completely gone. She's been in hospital close to now 40 plus days. A 28-year-old person. Absolutely, she thought that, we went out, it was rainy season, so we ate out, so probably some bug came, right? This is all examples of impermanence, right? So when the bug came, it was slowly the changes are happening, and we don't know where it's going, right? So the impermanence we can divide into gross level and subtle level. So gross level is something like, suddenly this girl who called that overnight, now I can't experience the vision that I had. And then I went to the doctor, 80% vision lost, 80, 90, whatever the percentage was. I don't remember what she said. All I gave was, I'm very sorry to hear, this is the information of the doctor, this is how you can take an appointment, please go, and get an appointment, and this is how it works. I explained my experiences of my family and said, don't expect miracles, but then go and explain everything. Okay? So that's gross level. Gross level, we know. After 6 weeks, we know our hair has grown, we need a haircut. But subtle level, momentary, we don't know. Right? And right now, anything around, my voice, your body, right now, if not trillions, at least billions of cells in our body are dying and getting regenerated. As we get older, this regeneration process becomes worse and worse and worse. Right? A young person does not have wrinkles, an older person has wrinkles. Why? Because the degeneration is much higher intensity than regeneration. Right? So this is what impermanence is. Right? So everything that we interact with, subtle changes are happening. Not everything, all composite things. Everything we are interacting with are senses, to qualify. There are things which, in fact, there's something called non-composite things, which we'll not cover today. So if people are interested, then there are systematic courses, and so you have to study there. In such a talk, it's difficult to cover so much technicalities, right? So here you've come for a talk, not like knowing technicalities. Okay, so we have to think about this, that you, me, our loved ones, whatever we have, those things are impermanent, right? So gross and subtle. Then there's another presentation of impermanent. We can divide into three. This is gross and subtle. Then there's another way. One, there are things which automatically come to an end. Whether you put effort, you don't put effort, they automatically come to an end. Like for example, today is 24th August. Nobody has to put any effort. 12 night India time, it becomes 25th. And then we have people from online, wherever you're joining from, whichever country you are in your, time zone, your 24th August will come to an end. And if people are joining from US, probably it's 23rd there, in online, right? So it comes to an end. This is also impermanent. This is gross. Anything that's gross impermanent necessarily will have subtle impermanence. The gross impermanence is due to the subtle impermanence, right? It's not necessary that, whatever is, there are things which we can say is only subtle impermanence, not gross. But anything which is gross impermanence necessarily will have subtle impermanence. What is subtle impermanence? Like I said, moment by moment change. And these moments can be very, very small, that you, me, at an ordinary level, we can't experience such small moments. But it happens. Even from a science perspective, if we go into an atom, it's also in a flux, right? And then, I don't know if there's something called Brownian motion. Like, if you have seen in your room, if the light is at a certain angle, specifically not from the top, but you see small dust particles, they're moving around, right? So it's called Brownian motion, right? So right now I'm seeing all these people, and between me and the laptop screen, I see like a clean, but if there was a light angle, there would be Brownian motion of small dust particles right now. We have a fan here, we have an aircon, so the air is moving. So necessarily, even without the air, the Brownian motion would be there, right? So, but of course, then somebody can say, okay, that's very theoretical, scientific, the Brownian motion doesn't affect me, right? But what if we were in the COVID wave, peak COVID wave, Delhi, there were no beds, and we're sitting like this, nobody's wearing a mask. I can guarantee many of us, including myself, would be thinking that is somebody having COVID and there are COVID particles in the air. This is closed, aircon, same air circulating, right? So what we think today is not relevant, suddenly can become relevant to us. Suddenly can become relevant, right? In those days, I don't know if you use those apps, right, for COVID. So I remember during peak COVID, my father-in-law was not well. So I had to take him to the hospital, right? And I had the app on, my Bluetooth on, and next day I got 2 alerts that you were less than 2 meters away or less than 1 meter away from a COVID infected person. How the app works is like it was just keeping a track of people who were as close as possible. And then later, let's say yesterday the person was not COVID positive, he becomes COVID positive, in the app he becomes COVID positive, then the app is alerting all the people who came close to that person in last 48, 72 hours, right? So it's because of the Brownian motion, he probably coughed, and then I was wearing masks, so nothing happened to me, right? But definitely there was a fear that what if now there's COVID, and this was wave 1, I remember wave one, no vaccines, nothing, right? So it can sound, so anyway, let's complete the three classification. That one, the things come to an end on its own, like today, like 2024, 2000, there are many things that will come to an end on its own, right? Whether you put effort or not, right? And there are certain things, whether you put effort or not, they remain impermanent and they don't come to, like, they don't annihilate, right? And one example is, of course, I'll say those examples, we may not be able to cover, but just that you get the information. Like mind is not same as, like, in other traditions, soul or consciousness. In some traditions, they talk about Atma. No, here we are talking about mind, which is eternal but impermanent. So there's a difference between the word eternal and impermanent. Eternal is something long lasting, which never comes to an end. Impermanent is something can be very short lived, yet whatever the life of that particular thing, during those moments, it will remain moment by moment changing. Okay? So I'm introducing some things which some of you may get something, and then when you go out of this room or when you log off from the Zoom session, you will forget. No problem. It will only work if you repeat this information, if you question it, but I'm just giving proper information right now. So there are some impermanent things which are eternal, yet, they're impermanent. And third, there are things which will only come to an end, and this is where our interest should be. If we are talking about the two aspirations, that I don't want suffering any level and I want 100% happiness. The third category is they only come to an end if we put effort. If we don't put effort, it will never come to an end. So there are mental factors, or there are some internal factors within me. If I don't put effort to remove them, then there is no way I can achieve 100% happiness and 0% suffering. No way. You can be very lucky to meet like Buddha or great beings, they can bless you. But if you don't put effort, nothing will happen. There's an example, like, 300 people can drag a horse to the lake, but if the horse wants to drink or not, it's entirely up to the horse. You can drag the horse to the lake, but if he doesn't want to drink, you can't do anything, right? So if you feel that you want to go for genuine happiness, then you have to understand why I don't experience genuine happiness. What are the causes? There are external causes, there are internal causes. External causes are infinite. And what happens in future, you don't know. So a wise person will go for the internal causes. So the internal causes, if you work on, then you are going on a path with progress, right? So these things can sound very depressing. He's talking about sudden sickness, right? And then one of the gross impermanences, everybody here probably, I don't know, if I take the youngest person, maybe in 30s. Yes, you are in 20s, probably. Sorry? 29. Yeah, so he's in 20s, okay. So guaranteed, let's say, guaranteed about 70 years from now, 80 years from now, we all would have disappeared from this planet Earth. Guaranteed. There have been great beings who have come on this planet Earth, right? If you look all traditions, like from the Hindu traditions, there's Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, Sikhism, Guru Nanak Ji, then Christianity, Jesus Christ, Jain, Mahavir Ji, Buddha, and all traditions you explore, Prophet Muhammad, they came and they went. If they could fix it, why didn't they not fix it? They should have created a pill. Now eat this, you become eternal, no problems whatsoever, right? So they were very wise. They said, there are certain natural laws and nature, certain reality. The best way is that you know about the reality. Don't try and force your concepts on this reality, right? So this is also reality, that 70 years from now, or maybe 80 years from now, 75, 80 years, guaranteed, you, me, everybody would have disappeared. This center was started by Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa Rinpoche. Right? Both have gone. Even our gurus come, they give teachings and they disappear. This is a reality. Right? Whether you like it, whether you dislike it, whether I talk about it, whether I don't talk about it, this will happen. There are some people who will say, oh, you're talking about inauspicious things. Okay, I stop talking about it. Let's create a UN resolution. Let's talk to all the world leaders that this should not be talked about at all. Will death disappear from planet Earth? Right? It won't disappear. Rather, we're being very childish that we have to face this one day and we're not talking about it, we're not mentally preparing ourselves. It's extremely childish, I would say. Right? And this is where the first seal is so important. All composite things are impermanent. When impermanence hits us, we have no idea how to face it. We freak out, including myself. Completely freak out. We are not prepared at all. Absolutely not prepared at all. Right? You know, you lose a job, you lose a friendship, you lose a person, whatever. You know, your phone drops, the screen breaks, you know, the heart drops. Right? I don't know if it has happened, right? The phone drops in front of you. Any experience, anybody? Like, it has happened so many times with me. And it's like instant, my heartbeat, boom. You just can't control it, right? It happens. So this clearly shows that this is my right now natural reaction. I'm not thinking, it's just so innate, it comes so strongly. And it's disconnected with reality. One day the phone will break. Even if it doesn't break, you know, these companies are very smart. They'll keep changing the software, that the hardware becomes obsolete. After 4 years, even if you want to continue, you can't continue. You have to change the hardware. Right? So this is where the relevance is there. Relevance of the teaching, all composite. The more we think about it, our attachment to trivial things in life, they become less and less. They become extreme. What's the big deal? Yeah, you know, I had a very good friend. He's not talking to me. She's not talking to me. Okay, I tried explaining my point of view. She doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. What's the big deal? Anyway, one day we had to separate. Right? But this doesn't mean we justify everything with impermanence and don't make the effort correctly. Right? You know, you are at home, your loved one, somebody is suddenly fallen sick, and you have the power to call an ambulance and take the person to the hospital. No, everything is impermanent. It's okay. Let me not call the ambulance. What's the big deal? That's not correct. Right? So I remember my teacher again, Gishdorji Namdullah, in one of his teaching, he mentioned that this was a real story from his monastery where he grew up and he studied. That one of the very senior teachers, he had an attendant. And these attendants are usually other monastics. Right? So, and it was back then, like 20, 30 years ago, and you know, it was quite difficult to get these thermos. Right? You had these thermos which are, you know, which keep things hot and cold, and they were in a very cold region. So it was like a novelty, very difficult to get. And inside, usually those days, they were made of glass. So if they drop, the glass will break. And the thermos, the functionality, it will work as a container. I mean, you can get rid of the glass, but it will work as a container, but the quality of keeping it cold or hot, it will be gone. So this senior teacher had this one thermos. Some, you know, student or somebody from abroad came to India and gifted this to the teacher, right? And one of the young monks who was very naughty was washing it. He was very careless, and it broke. Now he's afraid of the teacher, what to do? And then he goes, respectable teacher, is it true all composite things are impermanent? He's asking, teacher, is it true? Is it really true? All composite. Yes, teacher says. And is it true that, you know, the thermos that you had, is it a composite thing? Yes. Then the student says, sir, it broke. This is a wrong use. He could have been careful. So let's not use it in a wrong way, right? So one should have the wisdom. So impermanence, if we reflect on it and meditate on it or reflect deeply also, it can be depressing. If it's going toward the depressing side, it's not a good sign. Initially it's a good sign, but if it's overwhelmingly depressing, then it's not a good sign, right? Because these are depressing things which we have not thought about it. So initially when it hits us, of course it's depressing. But if it's overwhelming depressing, just thinking about it, then you need guidance from people. Okay? Now, impermanence also means that things can change from bad to good, from good to better. Impermanence also means they can be good to good. This is also impermanence, right? So, for example, Tushita, I know, I was receiving messages. I think it was end of May. There was like a huge downpour in Delhi, and this whole thing was flooded, right? This was a bad situation. These guys raised money. They put so much of effort renovating it. There were volunteers who came. This is bad to good. This is also impermanence. Now we are sitting here, because of this effort. If nothing was done, then, the hall is still flooded. Oh, it's impermanent. What can we do? Right? So one has to be wise in thinking about these things. So, and when we cover, then I will cover that how we can be positive in what ways, because I need to cover all the seeds, then it works more beneficially. Okay. So then, like I said, what happens is that you hear these things, you agree it, but if you don't reflect it deeply and you don't habituate with this thinking, it disappears from your mind. Impermanence will work. Your reflection on it, how you take, and this is what one example I can strongly say, this is still at a very gross level. We can go deeper into the causes why I don't experience 100% happiness, why I tend to have problems, one after another, we can go deeper. But this level also, if we habituate ourselves in thinking, right, correctly, then when it actually happens, you are quite not taken aback. You still may be taken aback, but not to the level with an unprepared mind. And this intellectually you can ask yourself that, okay, are whatever my physical senses they interact with, are those impermanent? And if your mind says no, there could be something permanent, then explore it. What does permanent mean? Permanent means it's not undergoing momentary change. Explore it. And if you find an example, discuss. This is a sweeping statement Buddha made. All composite things are impermanent. Composite, not like 2600 years ago, and then in 21st century, composite things will not be impermanent. And there will be a 31st century also, like 21st century, that they will not be impermanent. No, it's very relevant today also what Buddha said. Right? Very relevant. Right? Okay? Right? Sorry? Nature is a very big example. Nature is a very big example. Any examples you take. So then you have to ask this to yourself that, okay, if right now I'm intellectually agreeing to what is being said, but if I habituate, like this would be a test, mobile phone drops, oops, the heartbeat goes instantly up, right? And if you have habituated, seriously, it would not happen. It's habituation, right? It's matter of recollecting, ingraining in yourself, right? So then intellectually you ask yourself, okay, I'm not there today, but if I do this, even at this level, that I reflect on impermanence, then when things do, when things go from, bad to good like this all, we rejoice. Wow, okay, wonderful, right? When things go from good to bad, at least I'll accept it, okay? And then with a calm mind, let me see what I can do about it. Is there something I can do about it? Is it beneficial for me if I work on it? Like the thermos broken and 40 years ago, you can't do anything. You're in the middle of a mountain. How can you fix a glass? You don't have the mechanism, you don't have anything, right? The only thing is you can get another one. If you, me were that person, who was a little careless, we all have been careless, things have broken, from our hands also. We all have been careless. So if we were the one, then what is the solution? Right? And then if I had a teacher, then if I was sincere, then I should say sorry. Not like, reasoning like this, sir, is it all composite things are impermanent? Is thermos also composite? Not like that. Then you have to be very sincere and say, sorry, I was being careless. Right? So that is the correct way. Right? And then if something can be done, why not? Right? If it's beneficial for me, beneficial for others, things are impermanent, something can be done. Right? For example, in today's society, there are so many things which are not right, from gender equality perspective, or, safety of women, or, those kind of issues. So if something can be done, why not? Right? As a reminder. Okay. So there's a gentleman here saying that he read a book where in Japanese, practice, they actually break their utensils, join it, and then they drink tea from that. So they're always reminded. There's a forest tradition in Theravada, like in Thailand and all that. So in that, they actually, legally get a dead body, right? And the dead body is left there. First day, second day, they would look at it, how the dead body disintegrates. And this is the reality within our body. And it's quite moving when you see, today, if you Google, right, there are 3D images of a body, how our body is inside, and you can look at it, very, very detailed imagery is there, right? So this level of reflection, when you do and go deeper and do it correctly, repeatedly, it is 100% beneficial. Why? Because externally we can't change reality, right? Right? So we could not have like, okay, now it was what, 28th May or 29th May when it was like heavy downpour around that time. It was end of June. Okay, so it was end of June. It was like quite heavy downpour, right? Like, okay, now I have to stop the rain. We can't. It's raining heavily, right? Then we can learn from where the rain came and all that, and next time we are better prepared that even if it rains that heavily, it doesn't flood the basements. That much we can do, but we can't stop the rain, right? Okay. So then externally, the conditions will vary. There are millions and trillions of conditions that can manifest anytime. How I react, how, my mind reacts, it's based on my training, my thinking, and my habituation. Okay. No blessings. Here there's no blessings, right? That somebody blesses and then, okay, now I'm a cool guy, I'm a cool girl, all the time blissed out. It doesn't work like this. It'll never work like this. Okay? All right. So then the second seal. Second seal is, I'm not sure how much depth we can go because, we chose 3 sessions. All contaminated things are in nature of suffering. Here, what Buddha is saying is not that everything is suffering. Buddha is saying in nature of suffering. So let's explore what suffering is. Suffering again is an English word. It has a connotation which is not as deeper as the Sanskrit word, which is dukkha. The translation can vary. Many translation would mention in nature of dissatisfaction, right? So let's explore a little bit. We can even spend 7-8 sessions, 2-hour sessions on this, and those also will not be sufficient to explore all types of scenarios, frankly. Buddha's first teaching was the 4 noble truths, and the first noble truth is the truth of the suffering, right? Again, suffering is a word, English word, so it is not, I would say, based on my understanding of Sanskrit, it does not capture 100% meaning of the word dukkha. It does not. And I'm speaking in English, dukkha, but like in day-to-day Hindi and Sanskrit, we'll say dukh, right? And in Hindi, again, the word dukh has a different connotation versus dukh in Sanskrit. Okay? There are many words in Hindi which we use on a day-to-day language. The origin is Sanskrit, but the meaning is completely different. One search word is meditation. The word for meditation in Sanskrit is bhavna. The etymology is bhav, to become. You meditate like often in English, there's a saying, right? You become what you think of. But in day-to-day Hindi, the word bhavna refers to feeling. Right? So don't, just because we come from, there are many people here who are from Hindi speaking, and that's why I'm saying this. And there are many of you who don't speak Hindi, but I'm just giving an example from another language that when a certain word is translated from one language to another, you do not find the exact word. Yet you have to translate it. You have to give a word which is closest. So the best way is you pick up multiple words. Like for dukh or dukha, we can say suffering, misery, dissatisfaction. So let's explore it. Okay, can somebody give me an example of something that they like and they feel, yeah, this is something, your hobby, or maybe something edible, some dish that you like, online, offline, just as an example. Anyone, that you like, any mithai or sweet. Often Geshe-la gives an example of cheesecake. Cheesecake is not very popular in India. In modern world, it is, modern cities in India it is. But online, anybody, anybody would like to share an example? What they like? Cake. All right. Who said that?
Smriti. No.
Smriti. Cake. Okay. Cake. All right. Let's explore cake. And then again, Smriti, I'm not trying to change your perception about cake, but if it changes in our dialogue, then I apologize. Okay. So we'll explore. Okay. So, all right. So now, cake. Okay. And so if it was in nature of first question that I'll ask. Okay. If it was in something, cake was something that you feel happy and in nature of satisfaction, then would you agree? All of you, the question, Smriti was kind enough to share her personal choice. But the question is to everyone, that then if it is on nature of satisfaction, if I have it once, then my mind says, I'm satisfied now for life.
No.
Right? Yeah. So it should, if it was in nature of happiness or nature of satisfaction, you have it once and say, yeah, I had it once. Right? But it is not. Right? Then you said cake. So I bring, let's say, visually, whatever is the favorite, like strawberry cake, chocolate cake, whatever. I bring a cake, and then I bring it and then I offer, and then it's like a big cake, I cut into slices, I offer. Right? And then Rebecca is here. And then she somehow knows more about the cake than me. And then she just rushes and says, Deepesh, don't offer this to others, don't. I say, what happened, Rebecca? She says, it's like 5 days old and it's really stale. And then this level of humidity in Delhi, even 1 day old cake will, people will get sick. Okay? So I'm changing the scenario. Visually, you can't see, from a smell also you can't figure out. But then Rebecca has more information about it than all of us. We were all eager to eat the cake, but with this fresh information. So you see the cake and I say, wow, delicious cake. Everybody is looking forward to it. Right? Then now the scenario changes. Would you want to eat the cake or not eat the cake? Anyone here in person? Abhilasha ji? No. So here we have Abhilasha ji, she's saying, no, I don't know. Can you give me a reason why you don't want to? Let's say we are assuming a baseline that everybody likes a cake. Even if you don't like it, just for example, just follow me. Right? So now you're saying that Smriti ji's label was cake. Now I'm changing a scenario from a cake. It's a cake. Stale cake is a cake. So now why don't you want to eat, don't want to eat stale cake? Make you sick. Okay. All right. And let's say let's change the scenario. It's not so stale. Little stale. It will not make you sick. Just little stale. Right? The smell and the taste is altered now. Still Abhilasha ji says no. So what's the problem then? Just little stale. Let's make it a little more broader, not about your conditioning. Others will also agree that we'll not, let's make the answer convincing for you and others. Conditioning is one. What others? Anybody else? That Okay, you have doubt. Okay, one reason is doubt, conditioning. Anybody else? Now, Rebecca, you gave the information, so maybe you can tell me why this you will not eat.
Yes, sickness, and also I feel it won't taste good.
It won't taste good. This is the answer that I'm looking for. Why? Because then this applies to everybody. Smriti ji, will you eat a cake which will not taste good?
No,
No.
no, no.
Okay, so there are online only 3 videos on, including myself. They're shaking their head, Taraji and Lepangla. They're shaking their head, no, will not eat it. So it's not the cake then. It's the taste of the cake. Right? So we all agree. We are going one level deeper. We are going, it's taste of the cake that we like. Right? It's not the cake. Now, can you establish a taste without your tongue consciousness? Can anybody say this is the taste without the tongue involved? Right? So tongue is not external. Tongue is something internal that I have. Right? So we feel there is happiness in the cake. We don't explore it. We go one level deeper. Then we figure out it's the taste that I like. And taste is something internal. Right? There are people who have lost, I don't know, during COVID, did anybody have loss of smell and taste? Anyone? Abhilasha ji, you had. Okay. So, again, the object is same. You lost because of your whatever illness temporary.
It's like sand. Whenever I used to have food, it was like sand with kitty khare.
Okay, all right. So Abhilasha ji is saying that whenever during COVID time she lost taste and it was like she's eating sand. There was no taste whatsoever. Right? So then, like, I'm raising questions that if we feel it's in nature of happiness, then you have it once, then you should feel satisfied. Why do you have craving for it next time, next time? Right? Then I'm asking a question, is it really that object? Just as an example, Smriti ji said about cake, then we all agreeing it's not the cake, it's the taste of the cake. Right? And of course, taste is a little complicated if we explore, there's smell, there are other things, but anyway, just keeping it simple. Then taste definitely is an internal factor. It's not an external factor. Right? And then, okay, Smriti ji, how many kgs of cake can you eat like at one go? If you really like it?
No, just a slice or two, maybe.
Sorry? 2 slices?
Just a slice or two. Just a slice or two, not more than that.
Okay, all right. So that's another problem. If you like it, what's the problem? Keep eating it. So, okay, so what will happen if we give you the 4 slices, the 4th slice? What will happen on the 4th slice, Smriti ji?
It would feel like poison.
It will feel like poison. Okay, so, yeah, so let's say, Smriti ji, 4 slices are there, big slices, big enough that you will see the 4th slice as a poison, right? Now, I give you the 4th slice as the first one. I flip it. And you've not eaten cake. It's like, let's say lockdown, COVID lockdown, your favorite cake from the favorite bakery, you've not eaten it like for 6-7 months. Now you're getting it after 6-7 months. Right? So now the 4th slice is the first slice. What would be your feeling?
Still the same.
Still poison? 4th one you're eating the first time.
No. First time it will be like, it will give me pleasure.
It will be pleasure. It will be pleasure.
Yes.
Yeah.
The more I eat, the pleasure goes less.
Yes. So from the object side, I did not change any. 4 slices from the same bakery, equally fresh, very good tasting, the way you like it, and like Abhilasha ji, your conditioning, based on your conditioning, perfect taste for your conditioning, right? So 4th one first, no change in the object. So you can't say the 4th one is the poison.
No.
Right? So again, it's an internal factor that at one stage, more you partake, another nature of happiness it was, the more you do it, more pleasure you should get, more happiness you should get. But at one stage, it becomes obnoxious. Right? And even in many cases, the first one will become obnoxious. Let's say, you have a severe stomach upset, you're vomiting, you have loose motions, and the same cake is offered, you will not be able to eat it. You'll not be able to eat it, right? So this is where Buddha was exploring the nature. That's the key word. All contaminated things are nature of suffering. And then we have to explore, what does it mean by contaminated, So we have to go deeper in Buddhist psychology, what it means. Then we have to go deeper into karma, which we cannot explore in this kind of a talk. But contamination at this level means that Abhilasha ji used the word conditioning. Why I am who I am based on my conditioning, right? So this conditioning you can explain again based on cause and effect, and where cause and effect, there's an intention involved, it's called karma. Karma is nothing but cause and effect, but there's an intention involved, right? The rain falling is, there's no intention involved. There are clouds and the conditions gather properly, the rain falls, right? I'm speaking, making a movement of my hands, there's an intention involved. That's a karma. So all contaminated things, if there are what is called in Sanskrit, the word is klesha, and in English it's often translated as afflictions. So in our minds, if anything which is driven by karma, and that too contaminated karma, there are pure karmas like of Buddha is also, can be considered, or beings with pure karma, let's keep it aside. But anything with contaminated karmas and affliction, it's driven by that, it's in nature of suffering. Okay? All right? So, this particular suffering, like we all can, when the word suffering is used, we will say, okay, headache, illness, being tied in your room or flat or home when there is COVID, loss of freedom, all this we associate with obvious suffering, which even animals can associate with. The second level, which I was having a dialogue with Smriti and people here, offline, in person, is that what we consider as happiness, eating cake or these kind of experiences, if you explore deeper, then they give you happiness. We can't deny that. But they are not in nature of happiness. There's a difference. Right? So here Buddha is not saying that, okay, everything is misery, everything is suffering, it's so depressing, no cake from today. No. We're not talking about. We are talking about look deeper. Right? It's like, okay, if again we can go back to the example of somebody wanting to have admission in, some top-notch university in PhD, and the person is preparing, and that too not from a, from a very not well-endowed family in terms of material resources, right? But this person's motivation is very high, very, very high. Right? So this person will be so motivated, and if this person is your or my friend, and we say, let's go for a movie today, some stupid movie which has no meaning, nothing, just 2 hours, 3 hours of good fun, but nothing concrete achieved. This person will refuse, that I want to prepare. Agreed? This person will say, no, I want to prepare, I don't want to waste my time. So similarly, when the goal is something like I want to achieve infinite happiness, I want 0% misery, this is a very big goal we are setting for ourselves, right? And just to hear these things that it's possible, it is truly amazing. Because if you go to, again, no offense to if there are people who are from counseling background, psychologists, psychiatrists, modern day psychologists, psychiatrists, right? If you go and then let's say if I have anger issues, they will not say that you can uproot anger forever. They'll say you have to manage your anger. Right? This is a big, big difference. The whole perspective is different. That you can be 100% happy versus no, you have anger issues, you have to manage it. Right? So what we are hearing is something phenomenal, I would say. That I have this potential to be infinitely happy 24/7, not this life, all lives from now. All lives from now I'm making, and then maybe if questions come, we'll see if we can answer. But then this is a phenomenal statement. Right? So then, looking at the example of a person who's studying and wants admission, for that person, these things are very trivial. Going for a movie, going for a party, extremely trivial. Right? So if your goal is bigger, you're very clear, then you feel that these things are kind of, distracting you. This is not my goal, right? Okay, and then for this we can take an example again, teachings of my teacher Venerable Geshe Dorje Damdala gives a very beautiful example to explain this scenario. Let's say there are two prisons and there are two prison guards, and there are two prisoners, prisoner A, prisoner B, and the prisons are also A and B. In A, the guard is extremely strict, right? Very, very, like, would for small, lack of discipline, you would get like 20 canes and very, very rigorous punishments. And both the prisoners, after let's say 5 years, it's capital punishment. They will be both hanged, right? And they've not done anything wrong. They've been falsely implicated. Now this is prison A, where the guard is extremely strict. Prison B, the guard is very nice. He even has the power to get like swimming pool in your prison. You have like a resort style living. You have a, swimming pool. If you, like Smriti ji said, best of like not one, like 10 different bakeries, 10 different type of cakes. You have a choice. No charges. You want to eat cake, eat cake. Nice spa, nice massage, nice greenery, very, very nice nature walks. But after 5 years, you'll be executed, right? The other, like a typical prison, high security, extremely strict, right? And both prisoners, they know they've not done anything, they've been falsely implicated. Now, which prisoner will make the attempt to escape from the prison? Prisoner A or prisoner B? Here the answer is A. I think I can see Taraji saying A. Right? Does anybody disagree that it will be prisoner B? No, right? Why prisoner A? That would be the question. Okay, you instinctively said it. Why prisoner A?
He's having a lot of suffering.
Having a lot of suffering. Any other answers? Why prisoner A? Not prisoner B. Okay. So anyway, the answer is correct. To escape that kind of a scenario, you need a lot of enthusiasm. You need a lot of grit. That okay, I have to escape it, and you have to be constantly reminded that I'll be hanged, I'll be hanged, I'll be hanged, I'll be hanged, I'll be hanged. Constantly reminded of it. If you're not reminded, distracted by all these trivial things, almost all of us will fall in that category. Will be distracted. Life is bliss. What's the big deal, right? And then when we face problems, then we suddenly wake up, right? So that's why the second seal is quite important, right? So suffering, again, will not go in detail. I'll just list it. The first one, evident suffering, headache, physical pain, stresses of life, a bad boss, bad environment at home, a bad partner, abusive neighbors, noisy neighborhood, whatever. You can have a million different scenarios for a million different people, or even one person can list like hundreds of them, that these are all suffering for them. That is very obvious. We all agree. Buddha was a realized being. He was not going to say such obvious thing which you also, Buddha, I don't want headache. Here Buddha is not all contaminated things are nature of suffering. Buddha knows it. I know it. I don't want a headache. Right? He's going much deeper. And the second level, which is like our mundane happiness that we experience, they are all like a trap. They are all like the swimming pool that we are in a prison, in the prison B, and we fail to see what happens after 5 years, right? One stage we will face aging, sickness, death, bound to happen with all of us. It has happened to all of us, probably. If not to us, to our loved ones, right? Then what are you going to do, right? Okay. If somebody like this, my sister-in-law's sister-in-law, who's in ICU, she's now speaking, and she's in ICU for last 40 plus days, her lungs are not there. If I go and ask her, what do you want? She'll just say, I just want to go home. She will not say cake. She will not say swimming pool. She'll just say, I want to go home. I don't want to be in the ICU, right? Just if you happen to visit ICU, just look around. How painful it is. Extremely painful. Can happen to you, can happen to me. Right? I'm driving back to my home, I can meet an accident, boom. Somebody just admits me, somehow contacts my family that this person is in this hospital. Can happen, impermanence. And then the question can be, why me? Why her? If you keep asking deeper questions, oh, she went to Kashmir, she ate something, there was a bug. Her husband also went. He's not in ICU. There were many people who ate in the same restaurant. They are not in the ICU. They did not lose lungs. You keep questioning. At one stage, you will not have answers. And then you have to get conviction that if things are operating on cause and effect, there should be something specific, a cause and effect, which was applicable to her. Right? So these three things go hand in hand. You're reflecting on impermanence, reflecting on suffering, and reflecting on karma. Why her? Because of the karma. And this does not justify that, okay, it's justified that she suffers. She doesn't want to suffer. I don't want to suffer. Any gender, any nationality, any being, even an insect doesn't want to suffer. So we don't use karma to justify, oh yeah, some people say, yeah, it's karma, karma will take revenge. Our own thinking like this, we are creating negative karma. Right? So karma is a very deep topic, very vast topic. Again, probably need a lot more, discussion on it, but I'm just giving you complete information at this stage. You may not be able to take everything. At least you get these three things go together. And then the fourth thing is added, which is the positive side, that we have this precious opportunity. How many people are there in Delhi today, right? And how many people are in the world? And how many people are joining here that we are having this meaningful discussion? It's quite rare that people will think on those lines, right? So this technically is defined like, I have a precious human life, just not human life. I have a human life where my mind is diverting, or not diverting, mind is diverting away from the distractions and going towards meaningful things. Not for others, just for my happiness. And then we explore that if I want genuine happiness, then it is indispensable. Others are indispensable. We are so intricately connected that I can't say I just want my happiness. Impossible. Right? If in 1970s, it was probably 1970s, mid 1970s, that this center, I think probably the late 1970s, I would say, but yeah, 78, 79, as far as I remember, right? So some kind being thought that for generations, such a center would be useful, right? And we are benefiting from it, right? So these are the, so, and then, so what's the time? It's 1 o'clock already. Okay. So I think maybe I can take one or two questions, but then, these three things go together: impermanence, reflecting on suffering, reflecting on karma. And then if you don't have too much material, at least you can note it down. We went little bit detail into impermanence. Suffering, we can go much more detail. And karma, we can go much more detail. We hardly touched it, right? So, so I come from, not because I come from Tibet House, I'm one of the coordinators for the Nalanda Courses there. I'm not advertising their course because I come from there. But if people are interested, not only such centers like this center, I don't know if here Kabirji at one stage was teaching Discovering Buddhism. I attended many of his classes here in 2012-13. So there are such centers that you have to systematically study to get information, right? Okay. Like I said in the my last talk, I mentioned, in many of these Buddhist texts mentioned, people who listen can be compared to three types of pots, which we should not be. One is an upside down pot. Nothing goes in. And I'm not interested. I don't want to listen to anything. One is a pot filled with filth. So no matter what you put, nothing goes in. Right? So we should not be this upside down pot or pot with filth. Then I know everything. What is this? I'm not interested. You're listening, but nothing is going in. And third is a leaky pot. Things go in and then they disappear. There are holes. So we should not be. So modern day people, including myself, she's smiling, she's laughing. So I also consider, Rebecca, you're not the only one. I consider myself also a leaky pot, right? We need the same information again and again, right? So the memory is not good, distracted mind, huge to-do list, modern day world, right? I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this, including myself, right? So the mind is distracted, right? We are not in the present moment, So then what happens? Because of the distracted mind, we become leaky. right? So this is an example given, right? So we should be open, and we should be objective. By objective means like keep your, like she used the word conditioning, keep your emotions, conditioning aside, just with an open mind. What are they saying? I need not follow, I need not reject it, I need not accept it blindly, I did not reject it just instinctively. Let me just get the information, process it, and then I decide. Okay, so those are the things that I would mention. And so if people are interested, then the soon director of Tibet House, and he was the one, if you attended the talk on 10th of August, he gave a talk on 3 principal aspects here only. Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdullah, he'll be the teacher. So we have a course starting on 2nd October. Registration is opening on 2nd of September. So if you go tibethouse.in/NDC, right? Geshe-la style is very, very interactive. There are people here who've been part of Geshe-la's courses, Ajir ji, Rebecca, Nicola, Yash, myself, we are all students of Geshe-la. So, if you're interested, just apply and see, right? So we don't, Pirla, are you part of Nalanda Courses? You're waiting, okay. Yes, applying, okay. So yeah, at Tibet House, we don't use any canes. We don't use any canes. We don't scold people, right? We don't hang people upside down. No, we don't do that, right? So jokes apart, right? So we have online also. I know Lepangla, she's part of Joyce La. I know, and if I'm Indrajit La, Bhumika La, if she's the same Bhumika. And if I'm forgetting, because now we have 5,800 people in our Nalanda courses, so I can't remember everybody's name, but whatever I can remember, I can mention. I think also Shia Kwan Yenla, Sharvinla, if I'm not mistaken, she's been part of Nalanda courses. So, up to you, So if you can join, then you get systematic information. Like what we looked at suffering, Geshe-la will look at in like 5-6 sessions. And all these questions will be asked. And then you will be trapped. And okay, yeah, is it the cake or is it the taste of the cake? And then it opens you up, Okay, so I think probably what we can do, can we take a question or two? Fine, okay, all right. So I think I've overshot the time today, but that's okay. Nicola is kind enough allowing me, So any questions online, offline, maybe we can take 1 or 2 questions. Anyone? Okay. So when I give talks, this becomes quite problematic, right? No questions. I'm like, okay, did I speak too much? Did I give so much? And people are confused, or people didn't get it. What happened? Yes. What's your name? Rishi here. Yes, Rishi, go ahead.
Very interesting, and obviously it's a reflection of a lot of things. And so, I practice a lot of meditation, and I think awareness was one aspect that really separates sometimes that the feel of but again, the question is, for a layman, people who are busy with their lives and everything, what is few things that one can really take on and be happy as well, and be aware of the impermanence. So we spoke a lot about suffering, but the end goal is also to be happy, right? I'm sure that's where compassion and all things come, because if you're happy within, the compassion will not happen. So what is it that we can practice on a daily
basis? Okay, so I'll repeat the question. I don't know if online heard, so I'll repeat the question. So Rishiji is here. So he's saying he's been practicing meditation for some time, and then after such a talk, he's asking that what can we take and implement, because we talk about impermanence and these things, and in a busy life, he's using a layman, but that essentially means that, can be a laywoman, layman, in a what we call worldly life, right? And then how do we, integrate these things? What can we practice? And specifically keeping in mind the end goal is to be happy, right? So what I would say, Rishiji, not only end goal, the journey also should be happy, right? And then he also brought up in his question that about compassion he mentioned. So we've not touched that, so essentially it depends. When I say that, in modern day world, there's this word called self-compassion. In day-to-day conversation, it's fine. It makes sense. We can relate to it also, but technically it's an incorrect word. Right? What is compassion? Compassion is a wish for others to be free of suffering. Right? And then my teacher would always say that also add wish for others to be free of suffering and its causes. Right? It's wiser to add its causes. Right? Okay. So when I think about impermanence, and let's say, and then compassion is something that naturally some people are compassionate, naturally some people are not, but the level of compassion that we are talking about here will not come naturally. It's one of those impermanent phenomena that we spoke about. If you don't work on it, put effort, it won't come up. We all have the potential, but you have to work on it. And how to work on it? We don't start from others. We start like, okay, like you said that if, role of compassion in the end goal, you were relating the two, right? That if we practice compassion, then you yourself, now this particular whole thing that we're exploring, it's a first person science, right? This aircon working, this fan working, these are all third person science. Somebody did an experiment that, okay, this is how electricity was invented, and then there was a body which verified that yes, this is how electricity works, and then standardization evolved, right? This is the third person. What we are exploring, the inner world, it's a first person science. Why? So if I practice compassion, then do I experience, compared to an angry mind and compassionate mind? I've experienced both. When I'm angry, when I'm compassionate. Do I find more peace? Right? Rishiji is saying compassion. You don't need a third person. Right? I don't need to go, to a doctor or a clinic. Like, can you do an X-ray, and then tell me, okay, I'm going to do 2 X-rays. One X-ray like I'm angry, and one X-ray, of course, X-rays will not pick up the brain. Even if you say MRI or fMRI, they can find the brain correlates, but the experience they can't figure out. Experience is yours. In an MRI, you can pick up the brain correlates that when somebody is compassionate, this part of the brain gets activated. But what is the experience like? That you are the direct witness. Right? So not necessary, the end goal, definitely we are looking for, if we say that I'm looking for a happiness which is lasting, which has not these side effects that if I eat the 4th cake, then I feel like throwing up, it's like poison. Right? The more I partake, so compassion is one thing, more you partake, guaranteed more the happiness. This is on the side which you have to explore. And of course, through systematic study, that how do I know this? Why do you say this? Right? Why should I be compassionate to somebody who's been unkind to me, who's been rude to me? There are reasons for it also. We have to explore. Right? For example, one of the examples given is that if I want to be the best boxer in the world, right, then my mother should not be my coach. My mother should never be my coach. A loving mother should never be my coach. I need a coach who can give me hard punches. Because if I want to be world-class boxer, then I need those punches to become stronger. Right? So similarly, if I want to practice compassion for myself to experience infinite happiness, I am bound to meet rude people. And these rude people are like giving me punches, making me stronger. So your perspective is different. And you see them very kind as your trainers. Wow, what a wonderful opportunity. Where will I find such a person? I helped this person for last 10 years selflessly. Now this person is abusing me. Where will I find this opportunity? This is how realized being thinks. I'm not saying I think, I've heard these things. And I remember in this particular hall, Lama Zopa Rinpoche came sometime, I think 2014-15. And he came and he started his talk like this only. That I found a precious jewel, something like that he used a word. Why? Because he went to a monastery or nunnery and the administrator was extremely rude to him. And he went on for 15-20 minutes appreciating him. He said, what a precious jewel I found. Right? And directly, like if you've attended Lama Zopa's teaching, anybody can say he's speaking directly from experience. If you hear my talk, if you're into these things, he's speaking intellectually. Lama Zopa's, I don't know if you had that experience, Nicola, right? Directly you can see. He's speaking from his experience. Right? So you can know, yeah, he's practicing what he's saying. I found a precious jewel, something like that he said. right? Somebody was abusing him or was rude to him. He did not specify what the other person said, right? So this is another aspect. So when we reflect on impermanence, like I said, we can also reflect on that the end goal. This is the end goal, and the benefits of the end goal are so tremendous, right? This is also a psychology. In anything, if you reflect, whatever your goal is, if you reflect on the positives, and the positives should be based on reality. Not that, okay, if I become like a Buddha, then I'll bless everybody, then everybody will become a Buddha. That's not reality then. You are over exaggerating. When I become a Buddha, there is a saying, not a saying, there's a verse. I don't know who said that verse, that Buddha does not wash the negativities of being. Buddha does not pick their suffering with his hand. Buddha does not transfer his realization. It is through teaching of emptiness, the third seal, which we'll explore next session. It is through teaching of emptiness that beings are liberated. Liberated from what? Liberated from suffering and its causes. Right? So this is the reality. Right? So compassion is the way that not only the journey will be happy, but the end goal definitely it's filled with bliss. Right?
Sanskrit name for awareness.
Sanskrit name for awareness.
Somehow feel the translation is
Yeah, I've not.
awareness. So such a thing that
Yeah. I'll have to see. I don't remember right now, but I'll have to see. So like in the Tibetan translation, the words are quite well preserved. Sanskrit to Tibetan is almost 100% accurate. So in Tibetan, there are 3 words usually used. And the 3 words in English, they are translated as mind, awareness, consciousness. 3, right? For example, if somebody has fainted, then person does not have consciousness but still has a mind, right? But then, like I said, in language, the words are used interchangeably. So, you have to know in certain traditions, consciousness is used differently, awareness is used differently. So you have to know the context and you have to know what the other person or other system is talking about. We can learn everything from all traditions, right?
yes.
Yeah. So if I summarize the answer, and then it's not that, we are not perfect and we are aiming for perfection. That means it's not that today you hear it, I hear it, or if I say it that now, okay, my whole path, whole journey towards whatever the end goal, it will be always happy. There'll be moments down, there'll be moments up. We have to learn to deal with it, and it's constant habituation, When there are down moments, we should have the ability to see the positives, like somebody being rude. And then if we habituate with this mind, this person is like a trainer, I want to be the best boxer, Like in one of the books I read, where the very popular modern day author and a practitioner, Dr. Alan Wallace, he's written many books on Buddhism. In one of his books, I read that His Holiness, he's also, direct disciple of His Holiness. His Holiness is telling Dr. Alan Wallace that we are all like beggars, right? So these are all revolutionary thinkings, right? So of course we can't implement it, but let's say we intellectually, we feel that we are like beggars, then the chances of you quarreling with somebody becomes close to 0, right? That doesn't mean that His Holiness behaves like a beggar. It's an internal mental process thing that he has in certain situations, or he gives teachings where he's able to maintain a calm mind, right? That's the goal, right? In certain situations, if we can't be happy, we have to avoid certain situations to be practical, right? You might have best of intention, but the other person or the situation is so overwhelming, it's wiser to avoid that situation. No matter what you do, you say something even positive, you have some hidden agenda. No, I'm here to appreciate you, I'm not here to... You have some hidden agenda. If you say something bad, obviously they'll say you're saying something bad. So in certain situations, it may not be that you can be happy, the point I'm saying. Then the goal should be practical, avoid it. Okay? Right? I gave you some pointers, but then the idea remains the same. The 3 levels of wisdom of learning, reflection, and meditation. In day-to-day lives, we have all our other responsibilities. So one has to be practical. How much time do I have for these things? Practically take it. So if I can spend in a day 10 minutes to meditate, fine. At least have proper instructions and put the proper effort. and not to have like high expectations that, okay, I'm putting effort, now in 6 months I'll be like a realized being. The idea is just to put the correct effort. That's it. Expectation is a really, really quite complicated thing. It arises automatically and then it can cause a lot of damage.
So inclusive meditation. So
I mean, like you mentioned, awareness, you have to know, like if let's say you're doing meditation on any topic and you have instructions, then all your job is to follow the instructions for those 10 minutes, let's say. And no instruction will say, genuine instruction on meditation, nowhere it will say you should have this expectation. If there is that instruction, it's not a genuine meditation instruction. Okay? All right? Okay, thank you. So perhaps if it's another quick question I can take, yeah, Bhanushri ji, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I have this question that a lot of us probably are running on an autopilot mode these days. We have a fixed schedule, we are busy throughout the day. So what I feel that maybe maybe the intensity with which we should feel things is not happening. Like you gave the example of, breaking down a phone. So maybe like a couple of months ago, somebody stole my phone. And at that moment, I should have, panicked and I should have felt anxiety, but I did not feel those kind of things. So the problem which I think I'm having is I'm not feeling the things with the same intensity in which they are supposed to feel. So I don't know whether it is the acceptance of impermanence or just, feeling numb throughout. So how do I navigate, emotions or, such feelings on a day-to-day basis?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing, such personal details. Often it's quite difficult in, such a situation. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate your personal question. So first, I think you will have to see the nuances. You losing a phone and not feeling anxiety, it's a good thing. Don't be upset about it. It's absolutely a good thing. You lost a phone and you didn't feel anxious and you got another phone, right? Okay,
Yes.
so so you didn't become so numb that it doesn't matter. You got a phone,
Yeah.
so it's perfectly fine. It's a good thing. But then, yes, if you feel that you know a sense of not like what would be an appropriate word, that I don't feel so alive. Would that be a good word? Is that what you're experiencing?
It could be because sometimes even, there are things which are supposed to affect us a lot, like there are very depressing things around, but maybe we are so busy in our day-to-day routine that, we do not feel those things. So that is also something which is making us uncomfortable. I mean, am I not supposed
Sure.
to feel sad, or am I not supposed to, feel for that the other person? Or there could be many examples.
Yeah, sure. So this is also, the teaching of Buddha is very practical, and then, you have to look for the respective causes. So one of the causes, in fact, not only what Buddha taught in modern science, in psychology, there are a lot of experiments done. Many years ago, I read an experiment where they did a very simple experiment, and these experiments are done where? In universities. And then there are kids in the university who need a little bit of extra income, they enroll. You will get like 2 hour study, you'll get $15. That's how they enroll. So anyway, the team was researching about compassion. So what they created a hypothetical scenario where you will get money, you have to finish. They created 2 scenarios. One scenario, you have to finish like these 15 things in about 20 minutes, like running from one block of the university, go and give a document, come back, do a photocopy, make a cup of coffee, and they simple things, but extremely tight deadline. And then they planted one person from their research as like a homeless beggar outside the lab where the task was given. Like they advertised that if you want money, please come and we'll explain you what has to be done. And then, so there were 2 teams and 2 scenarios, right? So one team, maybe let's say 10, 15 people, another team, another 10, 15 people, one team, extremely tight deadlines, right? So in that, something like a high 80%, if I'm not mistaken, did not even notice that homeless beggar because they were in a hurry. And the other, where they said, okay, you have the whole day to finish it, something like very relaxed routine. Then it was like above 50% people approached this homeless and they helped him. So the very simple, conclusion in the study was that even for a mind to be compassionate, we need to slow down, right? We need to
Yeah.
slow down, right? And like you're saying, because if you have too many responsibilities, too many things, one has to be practical, right? Then maybe you want to slow down, but your life doesn't allow it. Then you have to look at why I have to do all those things, right? Are there things that you can cut down and then have just some downtime for yourself to slow down, And then, like I said, when I was answering Rishiji's question about compassion, then you have to reflect on, okay, compassion has its benefit, and not practicing compassion has its own downside. And those benefits you can link to yourself. Not compassion should not start with like, okay, I have to benefit others and I have to become like, Mother Teresa, Mother Teresa was Mother Teresa because she would have naturally felt that helping others makes me happy. This was the starting point. I want to help others because I want to be the best sacrificial human being in the world. You would not go too far. Based on sacrifices, you would not go too far. You will go, but then eventually you will burn out. So if you reflect on, again through systematic studies, that when one practices compassion, what are the benefits that one herself or himself experiences, right? Like for example, like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, right? There are many tests done, right? He recently went through knee replacement surgery in US and he's on his way back. And many doctors have said that in his annual checkups, if they look at his, if they look at the cells under the microscope and the person looking in the microscope does not know the person's age, whose blood is it or whose cells, they often would attribute His Holiness' age like something like 15, 20, 25 years younger. Just looking at this, and then His Holiness often says, why? Because I've practiced compassion, I sleep well,
Okay.
right? So those are the benefits. Like I'm just giving as one example that we can link modern science. Our immunity is higher if we practice compassion. We sleep well, our digestion is better, we'll get less migraines. You can make a whole list that if you practice all this is what will happen, right? So then if the mind has the benefit, mind sees the benefit, then automatically, your mind says, okay, I want to develop this quality. And like I said, it's not about like somebody blessing. It has to be from your side, right? So, go slow if you are feeling like this, that, I don't feel, situations where at least I should have had some emotions, right? Fine, this is who you are. Nobody is judging you. But then if you want to change, and in such situation, like I said, not feeling bad when you lose a phone, it's a great positive quality, I would say. So you have to use it like a tea strainer, that there are certain things you filter out and there are certain things you keep. Everything has a positive and negative. If you discard this totally, then that's also not a good thing. There are positives in what you are experiencing and what you are. Retain that, and then practicing compassion, then reflecting on these things that we just spoke about, then it has a positive impact. And provided correct effort and repeated effort. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for your question. I think we will call it a day now. Okay. All right. So let's do a quick dedication. So whatever I think positive energy that we as a group acquired today, it was quite meaningful that some of you came from very far places. Some of you are joining from far places, maybe odd hour for you. So I rejoice, So whatever merit, virtue that we've gathered as a group, let's dedicate towards a positive cause. And the best causes that may we ourselves manifest this, potential within all of us to become like an awakened being. Buddha, the Sanskrit word Buddha, it means awakened being. There's no ism involved. It just means that you've perfected your own potential for yourself, for others. And then if you have your loved ones, near dear ones who are going through tough times, do mentally include them in your thoughts, and we send like positive energy to them. And of course, include yourself also. So let's just spend a few seconds silently in dedication. Okay, and then we should also dedicate towards, the long life of His Holiness. All our teachers, may the wishes of all our teachers, manifest spontaneously. And any genuine teacher, any genuine centers, their wishes are what? To benefit all sentient beings, So let's do that also. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you here joining in person and online. Thank you. See you next week. Bye bye.
Thank you.